Live an optimal life, through health and wellness. Be well, get well, and stay well.
We do a little thought experiment with you. It's literally never too late to intervene in your health. So I love to garden. We've got plants around our house. Here's a nice, healthy plant. But if I stop taking care of this plant, maybe stop watering it, stop fertilizing it, stop playing Beethoven for it, whatever it might be, if I just start neglecting this plant, what's that plant going to look like? The flowers are going to start to wilt. Maybe the leaves will start to sag a little bit. But if I turn my full attention back to that plant and I start pouring water, fertilizer, love back onto that plant, can I nurse it back to health? Absolutely, I can, right? I can bring that plant back to optimal health. But let's say I continue to neglect this plant. I don't intervene soon. What's that plant going to look like? Maybe I neglect it for another week, another 2 weeks, another month. Eventually, the plant is going to die. No amount of love, water, fertilizer is going to bring that plant back to life and optimal health. So the point being, the sooner we can identify when things are falling out of maybe optimal health and we can intervene, the easier it is to bring ourselves back to optimal health. So I don't know why what's so intuitive for plants isn't exactly as intuitive as it is for humans, okay? Our cells, our bodies are in this constant state of turnover. The cells in our digestive tract, for example, turn over every 3 to 5 days. Our skin cells are turning over about every 28 days. Our blood is turning over every 3 to 6 months. And even something that we think is incredibly static, right, being our skeleton, is even turning over between every 2 to about 10 or 12 years, depending on how old we are. So we're turning over, and again, it's literally never too late to intervene in your health, okay? So that's why lifestyle is so important. How about your environment? Scientists love to do these studies called immigration studies. So they will look at places around the world that maybe have a low rate of some condition. And again, it doesn't literally matter which condition we're talking about. These studies have been repeated over and over and over again with all different sorts of things. So in this example, what they've done is they've looked at people who were born actually in China. They have an incredibly low rate for this condition. Now, when they move just a little bit south down into Singapore, their rate for this condition goes up by about 10-fold. 10-fold. So as they're adopting these mostly lifestyle and diet from the country that they're in, it is negatively impacting their health. And then if they move even just a little bit further to Australia, or the data is very similar for the United States and Europe, but if they move a little bit more south to Australia, their rate goes up by about another 4 times. It's unbelievable, right? And then if you happen to look like me, born in the United States, my rate for this condition is astronomical. Now, that's very clear evidence that the environment we're living in is affecting your health. Now, what about your genetics? Most people are pretty skeptical that there's anything that we can do to affect our genetics, but let's talk about this for a second. Does everybody recognize who this is? It's Dolly the sheep. And why Dolly the sheep was so important is that she was the first ever cloned animal. So most of us know Dolly, but how about this kitty cat, this little kitten on the screen? Does anybody know her name? She's far less famous, but has probably had a bigger impact on genetics than even Dolly the sheep has. And her name is Cece, which stands for copycat. I mean, scientists aren't very creative when they're coming up with these names. So Cece was actually the product of a company located in California. And I'll just warn you, there's a couple bad science jokes coming. The name of this company was called Genetic Savings and Clone. Now, the business model for this company was that we love our animals, our cats and our dogs, so much that we'll do anything to keep them around literally forever. So what this company would do would go take a DNA sample when Fluffy was still alive. They would put her DNA in the freezer, and then when Fluffy passed away, they would pull that DNA out of the freezer, clone Fluffy, and then you'd have her right back. But do you see a problem if Cece, the kitten on the screen, is supposed to be a clone of her mother that's behind her? They don't look the same. If you paid thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars to have Fluffy cloned, would you be a little pissed if they gave you that cat and you say, this isn't Fluffy? So these scientists wanted to figure out what was going on in this case. So they looked at the DNA, and sure enough, they found that these two cats had the exact primary DNA sequence. So Cece literally single-handedly started this field of genetics that's known as epigenetics. So it turns out that there's a chemical code that lives on top of your DNA code that is more important to determine which genes are turned on and which genes are turned off. So Cece's epigenetic code was much different than her mother's and is exactly why she looks different. Okay, so now I want to show you a picture of two identical twin sisters. You ready? What? These are mice. Yes, they're mice, but scientifically speaking, these are identical twin sisters. They were born from different mothers, but as scientists like to do, they try to standardize everything in their experimental models. So these mice are genetically exactly the same. The difference is that that mouse that's blonde and overweight was born from a mother when she was pregnant, was not allowed to exercise, and ate an unhealthy mouse diet. The mouse on the right, the lean, dark-haired mouse, her mother was fed a healthy mouse diet and was allowed to exercise. And I don't mean just forced to exercise. All they did was put a wheel inside of her cage and let her run just whenever she wanted. Voluntary exercise. The lifestyle that you're living is affecting our offspring. And what else is so interesting about this is that they have come to figure out that this epigenetic code can also be passed on generation to generation to generation. So for me, how scary is it to think that how my grandmother and her mother were living their lives is affecting my health outcome? So you might be thinking to yourself, okay, Brian, I'm not a sheep, I'm not a cat, definitely not a mouse. Is something similar happening in the human condition? And the answer is absolutely yes. So here's just one study that illustrates this point. This is from identical twins, and they looked at this epigenetic code in these twins when they were 3 years old, and then again 47 years later when they were 50 years old. So the details here aren't super important, but can you see with the chart on the left how most of those lines are lining up? When they came back 47 years later and they measured that epigenetic code, can you see now how the lines are very different between these two twins? As these two individuals went off and led their separate lives, their lifestyle was affecting that epigenetic code. But this isn't the only way that we can affect our genetics. What about nutrigenomics? So I spoke about nutrigenomics last week, and I'd encourage you to go maybe listen to that call if you want to hear more about nutrigenomics. We're not going to talk a ton about it today, but it turns out there are ways we can affect how our genes are being expressed by simple nutritional interventions. So literally, we can use nutrition to flip these genetic switches of so-called health genes, survival genes, anti-stress genes, adaptive genes, whatever you want to call them. We can target these genes by utilizing simple nutritional interventions, okay? So that was just a quick run through of the science that you actually do literally have full executive control over your health span if you're willing to lead a healthy lifestyle. And so to break it down even more simply, I love this slide. So you are what you eat. I think we've all heard that for a number of years, but you are also a product of your exposures. So whether it's environmental or the things we're doing inside of our home, but then also very importantly, not only you're not a product of your genes, you're a product of the expression of those genes and which genes are turned off and on. So again, you literally have full control of your health and your health span. And quite simply put, health is a function of how we are living our lives. So I don't care where you're at, right? If I want to build a skyscraper or if I want to build a nice cozy home, it doesn't matter. I need to get the foundation right. If I don't get the foundation right, I can't build a skyscraper and I can't build a nice cozy home. I don't care if you're an elite athlete, a weekend warrior, or somebody who just wants to get comfortable in their health. You have to get your foundation right. And again, that starts with these 6 pillars of health. So check in. What are you doing in every aspect of your lives? Are you leading a healthy lifestyle? It's when you're doing that, you're setting yourself up for optimal health. It's then and only then does it make sense to add a nutritional supplement onto that regime. Quite frankly, supplements are meant to complement a healthy lifestyle and can then help set you up for even better health down the road. So again, I'll ask you, are you truly healthy in every sense of the word? Or might there be some things that you can do to actually take charge, take ownership? Are you going to commit to doing some things? So I want you to do a little homework. You can mention it in the chat here. You can text your friend, email a friend, write it down. But I want each of you to commit to one thing that you're going to do in your lives to help maintain your health for as long as possible. Are you going to commit to going for a walk every single day? And it doesn't have to be heroic. It can be 15 to 30 minutes. It will change your health trajectory. Build up to an hour. Are you going to commit to going for a run or to the gym the majority of the days of the week? Are you going to try to eat healthier? Are you going to eat healthy meats and protein sources? Are you going to eat more fruits and vegetables? Maybe you'll take an entire meal, if not an entire day, to maybe eat plant-based. What are you going to do? Are you going to commit to taking your supplements every single day? What is the one thing you can do to start improving your health and improve your health span? Okay. The reason this is so important is because they will become habits. And quite frankly, healthy habits increase health. And more than that, they snowball. When you start with one healthy habit, all of a sudden you'll find yourself wanting to do another healthy habit and then another healthy habit. And before long, day by day, these healthy habits become second nature. And I promise you that they will improve your physical condition.
Thanks for watching, and remember, one change can have an enormous effect. Remember to subscribe, hit the bell and the like, and we'll see you next time on Love to Live.